Hello, this is the Casedo 1.10 briefing hosted by Ross Birkbeck on the 24th of November 2023.
Version 1.10 is exciting. We've got a couple of features I think really make a difference on the user end and for the type of work I do, certainly. The first of them is file import. We've added a whole bunch of file types that you can now import into Casedo directly, and they essentially the common ones that us and our users seem to see in practice. So you can now import RTF files, text files, so often non-Word documents and non-PDFs, essentially text and RTF, and also images, JPEGs and PNGs, which is really useful for sometimes when you get sent JPEGs for evidence, etc., or just text documents in different formats. So that's a huge plus, I think. And just we were constantly trying to obviously cut down the barriers between Casedo and your files. The other big and for me the most exciting feature even is an ability to split up PDFs based on bookmarks. So you may know, if you're ever sent a PDF bundle these days, that you'll send an entire bundle as a single PDF with bookmarks marking up the documents. And whilst that's kind of great in many ways, it's not the best format for Casedo because you end up with a single document and a load of bookmarks. And you can't put those separate folders in the bundle into folders, etc., etc. So the new feature we've brought in allows you to automatically split up bundles based on their bookmarks and put them neatly into folders with the right names, etc. So I'm going to now share my screen. I'll show you these features. Hopefully you can see that. So yeah, new Casedo file, version 1.10. And as I said, the first thing I'll demonstrate is that we can import a whole bunch of new files. If I import RTF, you're going to get this document warning saying formatting may not be as expected. That's the case with all RTFs. It's the nature of them. They've got text formatting, but it's not always handled the same. And so, for example, this one was made in Word, but if we bring it into Casedo, you'll see the formatting has changed significantly because of the way the RTF deals with it. So RTF and text, which I'll also show you, that you get a similar result if you get this text file. Text file, obviously very basic. You're going to get a very plain looking text document. So these formats are not the best, obviously, if you want fancy presentation. They are but they are good if you just need to get the information in, which is what I often find. That's the situation. The reason you've been sent it in text or RTF format is because people aren't very particularly worried about the formatting. So you can get the information in, obviously, with the highlight, etc., in the usual way. So that's great. So I'm going to bring in a couple of JPEGs and a PNG. You can see we now have this importing little button pops up down there as well. So what you can see, the way this deals with images, look, we've got a couple of horrible pictures of me. This is a PNG, and you can see it's scaled to fit the page with the name of the file down beneath it. That's just 5.png. Here we have a smaller JPEG file. So if smaller images are put actual size on the page, they're all laid onto A4 pages, so they'll print properly if you ever need to print them, or they'll just conform to the A4 format if you're doing an e-bundle. Again, that's been put there full size with the file name underneath it. So if you need to identify what these are on the printout, that's going to be easy for you. Here's a bigger PDF of me looking rather. It's my Chambers profile picture, embarrassingly. This was bigger than the page, so it's been scaled to fit. And again, you get the name at the bottom there. So images now come in like that. One thing to note on this is what it also means is when you import emails, often emails have attached to them logos and stuff. So they'll now import as well, which is a mixed blessing, really. I end up deleting quite a lot of them, but it's part of a side effect, I think, that something to be aware of. So that's our new import feature, and really, there's not much more to say about it other than how great it is that we can now do that directly. Other thing, as I mentioned earlier, the whole bundle feature, it allows you to bring in whole bundles. So I'm going to look here and take a small authorities bundle here from a hearing I did recently. And this is, as I said, a single file. And I'm going to import it with bookmarks. And when I import it with bookmarks, you'll see, perhaps you're familiar with this. It comes down here as a bundle with all its bookmarks. So we've got this. This was made by me, I think, for a hearing I did, but it's much the same as the other types of bundles you might get. So I've only got, in fact, 3 documents in this bundle. It's a nice short one, but it's got a front page, index, and then the authorities. So what I used to do with documents like this is I would go through them, and then I would go down to the first document, and I would use the split page feature, and I would split them off. And as I worked through my bundle, checking out what I've got in there, I would use the split function to split things off and put them into folders. That's fine as far as it goes, but it takes a lot of time. It slows you down whilst you're working, and it's really a job that should be done automatically, which it now is. So if I select this bundle up here, and I choose split document by bookmarks, what it will do is take that document. The first thing it does is put it into its own folder. So we now, instead of the document, have a folder, and then it splits it based on the top level bookmarks. Now, the way this document, let me bring in the old one so I can explain how this is working. The way this works is that it takes top level bookmarks only. So what we had here was a folder with authorities in it. You can see this folder, and then all the other bookmarks have little dashes in, which indicate that they're sub bookmarks, as it were. They're within that folder. So on the first pass, this document is just split into one authorities document, which represents the folder. So what in this case I do is I just run the function again on that folder, and you'll see it then works through that document and splits it up into the individual documents. So now we've got a bundle cover, the index, and the 3 documents. And we've got page numbering here, so we know that this is page 3. If we want this to match our Casedo page numbering, we can, of course, turn on pagination and set it to folder-based pagination, so that this folder, this top-level folder, which is the bundle, gets its own lettering. The pagination starts again, and that means that we've got C3, C4. These page numbers are now going to line up with the original page numbering, which we may or may not want if we want to be able to use, go to page C15, for example. So that's a really quick way in the common situations where council works, where you're sent a bundle ready for court and you just want to get started working on it and prepping it through, and you want all those documents separated out, you can, and you'll see obviously you get page numbers in there and everything. So really it saves me loads of time and just makes the whole process much smoother. So that is kind of all I was going to show you today, subject to questions. On subject to Jim wanting to jump in with anything. If you're still on 1.8, there's a couple of other features. For example, we can now export folders, which is really great. So we can export a file, an individual file or a folder from the menu. We've also got this undo function, which, as I say, if I accidentally take these documents here and move them up into that top folder, I can Command-Shift-Z undo that, and they'll go back to where they were. So that's a really great safety feature in case occasionally you'll select all and you'll do something silly, like drag all these out of the way and go, oh no, I've just messed up my entire bundle structure. Shift-Command-Z puts them back, and you've got, I think, four runs back that you can do that with.
5.
5.
Yeah,
it was 5, and then it was 4, and then it's 5.
Yeah, they put it back to 5. Yes, and because the way your Mac's set up, Ross, there's no menu bar that we can see, but we've added a view menu as well. I don't know if you can you demonstrate that?
I can if I unshare my screen. So we've obviously, as you know, we've got our up at the top left here, we've got our file menu, we've got a view menu with zooming in and out, which is helpful. You can see the undo last move feature here in the edit menu. It's the Shift Command Z, so not just normal undo. We've got our pagination options as normal. Those weren't updated in 1.9. That was 1.8, wasn't it? When we added.
Yeah. If you're a Windows user, the view menu has an extra option, which is to hide the menu bar, because as you may know, in Mac, the menu bar is sitting at the top of the app there, not on the sort of application itself. Whereas in Windows, it sits on the application, but you can now hide it. You can toggle it off and on. And we put the view menu up there purely to give to spread the knowledge on the shortcuts, essentially, with the zoom. So you can use the shortcut command keys to zoom in and out, which frankly I didn't know. We've also added, we've removed the print icon in the bottom left.
Down here, yes.
So you can no longer print directly, but you export to PDF. I mean, Ross, actually, you could explain the reason why for that, actually.
Well, fundamentally, it's because printing directly out is very rarely used, and what we essentially maintaining two print options, we thought what was a burden on us developmentally, from the development point of view, and we wanted to focus on PDF export to make sure that could be done properly. And of course, PDFs are just a print document format. They are especially designed to be a document that prints exactly as they're exported. So the workflow is export to PDF, and then if you want to print, you can print that, which really is I hope you'll agree, is no extra burden at all.
It wasn't working so well either, was it, with the rotation?
No, there were. I mean, as I say, that's what I'm saying. There was issues in terms of development with making sure the print function worked directly. Given the types of manipulation we were doing with the documents, and it was much better just to lock into Casedo's underlying PDF architecture and be able to export that. So what you get out of Casedo when you export to PDF is what you can see when you're in it, which is just can give you confidence in what you're exporting. And then the onward printing or sharing or whatever is obviously the standard and uncontroversial. So we think it's a better system, a more robust system.
Yeah, agreed. Yes, I think that covers it, frankly. I mean, if you look on the release notes on the website, there are a few fixes. They're not very exciting, but we have fixed a few things. We're hoping that, as Ross said, the undo last move, the change of keyboard shortcut makes it a bit less confusing, because I often hit Control Z willy-nilly in other apps just to see what happens, and I think people have been doing that. So it's important to underline that it's not a full undo feature. It is just an undo move feature. Thank you for joining us. To download Casedo or to find out more information, go to casedo.com. If you'd like to email us, you can email us at team@casedo.com, or for support, email support@casedo.com. Thank you.